About 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day, Katie Griefeld and Eric Balchunas. And here to help take us through the closing bell, we're joined by a global simulcast, Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec. Carol back from vacation, bringing together our Bloomberg Television, radio, and YouTube audiences worldwide. And what a trading day we are putting behind us. The S&P 500, we're not going to close quite at session lows, Carol, but still an ugly start to this month.
Yeah, kind of rough, right? And we are, there's just kind of a lot coming at investors this month. We know we've got the jobs report on Friday. We have a lot of economic news, a Fed meeting in a couple of weeks. But I've been looking at the SOX, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Exchange Index, and it is down about 1.2%. This news that the U.S. has pulled TSMC's waiver for China shipments of chip supplies. So basically, revoking TSM's authorization to freely ship essential gear to its main Chinese chip-making base. So, yeah, I feel like the semiconductor area under some pressure here, Tim.
Okay, so maybe stocks under pressure. Maybe it's a risk-off day when it comes to the bond market. Interestingly enough, that's kind of being ignored when it comes to at least some cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin up 1.7% as we speak. Ether was up much of the day, just about $400 off of that all-time high reached last week. So not moving in unison, not moving in tandem today.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good sign. If you're in crypto, you want that lack of correlation. That's how you attract the big fish, because they don't want a tech stock. They want digital gold. So good sign for Bitcoin. I'm looking at ARK. ARK has been leading the way. Getting hit hard today, but still up like 33% this year. To me, that's always like the canary in the coal mine for a growth sell-off.
Right.
So we'll see what happens with that.
And we can hear the bells ringing right now. And here are our closing levels. The S&P 500, 64.14 or so. We're going to finish down about 0.7%. It feels like just last week, and it was, that we were just above 6,500 on the S&P 500, Carol. We're still very close to those levels, but certainly a risk-off day.
All right, certainly a risk-off with a lot coming out of investors, as we mentioned earlier. Hey, if you look at the S&P 500, folks, dig a little deeper, and you've got most names in the index lower today, 385 names to the downside. Eric, 116 gaining ground.
Yeah, looking at the sectors, it's bad. It's pretty bad today, but, it's just the day. And the top sector is energy. As Katie said earlier, it's deja vu 2022. So that's not good. Also, you had stocks and bonds down. So it's almost like the whole year has been like 2024 redone. And yet today seems like 2022. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
All right, let's get to some of the individual gainers. That's a lot of red on that screen, but there are definitely some outperformers in a big way. So let's get to it. PepsiCo at its highs today, folks, up more than 6%, finishing the day with a gain of about 1%. A top gainer in the NASDAQ 100 at one point. Shares rising after Elliott Investment Management confirmed it took a $4 billion stake in the company, making it one of the largest investors in PepsiCo. Elliott outlining its plans for the company, including potentially restructuring its beverage unit, reviewing its snack offerings. Company has really struggled in the face of competitive pressures and really changing consumer taste, if you will. So we'll see. We're keeping an eye on that, but investors are hopeful about some of the changes to come. Want to get to a name that was actually among the biggest gainers on both the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500. We're talking about Biogen. Ticker is BIIB, stock up 5.6% in today's session, and this had to do with the drug maker winning FDA approval for its self-injected form of its Alzheimer's therapy, and analysts see that approval aiding the launch of the drug by improving convenience for patients. So that was definitely some outperformance there. And then Frontier Group up 23% at its highs intraday, finishing with a gain of about 14%. Deutsche Bank coming out, raising the recommendation on the company to buy from hold, saying the firm is best positioned to benefit from rival Spirit's bankruptcy. You might remember last week, Bloomberg out reporting on how Spirit had engaged Frontier in high-level talks about the carrier's ongoing efforts to chart a path forward less than 6 months after emerging from bankruptcy. So Frontier definitely, Tim, an outperformer in today's session.
Okay, well, let's look at some underperformance today. I want to start with Nvidia. Down about 6% over the last 4 days, down 2% today. The company's earnings showed restrictions on sales to China eating into revenue and uncertainty about when those sales could resume. That was to the tune of about $4 billion. Now, despite the recent drop, the stock is still up about 80% off that April low. Analysts see upside of more than 25% from current levels, with growth trends keeping valuation in check. We should note the whole chip sector under pressure today. A reminder, we learned early today that regarding TSMC, the U.S. has revoked TSMC's authorization to freely ship essential gear to its main Chinese chip-making base, potentially curtailing its production capabilities. Also, Kraft Heinz, speaking of like what's old is new again, the company plans to split into two separate companies, one selling Heinz ketchup, the other iconic condiments, and the other including slower growing grocery products. So the Oscar Mayer hot dogs go in one, and ketchup and other iconic condiments go in the other. The goal of the split is to give the company's top performing sauces and spreads more room to run while siphoning off lagging grocery staples in a new entity expected to generate reliable cash flow. Shares today down by about 7%. And finally, Constellation Brands falling 6.6% today. This after the company cut its fiscal year 2026 guidance. It cited weak consumer demand, which will hurt inventory rebalancing at this distributor level. I guess, Katie, people aren't drinking like they used to.
Yeah, we were just speaking about that with Ken Shea. Used to be just Gen Z that was turning off from booze, but it seems like it's broader than that. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff and talk about bonds, because we saw a sell-off in the bond market. No haven bid there, and you can see it was a curve steepening move. You had 2-year yields rising, yes, a little bit more of a sell-off though when it comes to the long end. 10-year yields up 4 basis points, something similar when it comes to 30-year yields as well. So interesting movement in bonds day, taken in concert with stocks, Eric.
Yeah, and look, also we're looking at value and small caps. There really wasn't a rotation, both down 50 basis points. Value, both those can really just never catch a break. Even when large sells off, they can't get a bid. It's tough over there, and that's interesting to me. That makes me think this was just like a wake up, summer's over, I'm not in a good mood kind of sell-off.
I know that feeling. All right, folks, we do have Zscaler just crossing the Bloomberg terminal. Let's get to their numbers. Let's get to the outlook first. Second quarter adjusted EPS looks like they are expecting, fourth quarter, jumping around here. Fourth quarter revenue, $719.2 million. That is a beat, everyone. The street estimate was $707.9 million. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS, that too was a beat, 89 cents a share, Tim. That is 8 cents better than what the street was expecting. And they also talked about the first quarter outlook.
Yeah, shares up 8.5% in the after hours. Once again, fourth quarter revenue coming in at $719.2 million. The estimate will be for $707.9 million. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS coming in at 89 cents. The estimate was for 81 cents. First quarter revenue, that outlook that Carol mentioned, higher than the estimate of $752 million. Once again, shares higher, surging in the after hours by 9.2%.
Yeah, that's what happens, right? When you
eat your protein, right? Is that what happens?
Well, let's go. There's a bunch of stories from Starbucks that we want to touch in. I'm going to let you do the protein one.
Okay.
I want to talk about Brian Niccol. He actually came out today, and he said that the fall product launch, which includes the return of the seasonal pumpkin spiked latte, drove a surge.
Pumpkin spiked latte?
Yeah.
Spice.
Oh, how did I get
What are you drinking? I want to know what you're drinking.
I
will say I had a lot of cocktails on my vacation. Seasonal pumpkin spice latte drove a surge in sales. He put out a memo, apparently, and he said the product lineup helps to deliver a record-breaking sales week across their U.S. company-operated stores, as well as strong sales in Canada. I am not a fan.
No, but the success of the pumpkin spiced latte notwithstanding, we know that Brian Niccol has been hired about a year ago to turn around Starbucks. And one thing that he's done is revamped menu items. And we learned also that the company's going to launch protein-boosted lattes in cold foam in the U.S. and Canada on September 29th. This is part of its menu modernization strategy. Protein lattes?
So hot right now, protein. I am excited for this. I have to say, the protein-boosted cold foam lattes. I can't imagine it's a meaningful amount of protein. I'm excited to take a look at those macros. But also in the news when it comes to protein, there was a great story from Red Brown today about just how hot creatine sales are right now, particularly when it comes to women and older Americans. Apparently at GNC, sales of creatine have surged 75% versus 2020. So that really tells you something. I have to say, in my personal life, for some reason, my family, and my friends all got turned on to protein at the same time, saying we need to have more of it. So I don't know what's in the water or what's
What about
in the
creatine?
algorithm. Not specifically creatine, and Red Brown's story goes into this. I feel like creatine has some reputational damage still from its association with steroids, but apparently it's not stopping American women and older citizens.
Not much can stop American women. Can I just put that out there?
No, and certainly not steroid allegations. Anyway, I thought that was interesting, especially, I mean, Starbucks clearly jumping on that trend.
Yeah, I mean, I think creatine really, for what I've heard, is to bulk up. And so I like to lift weights. I use Weight Watchers, but I just have never tried creatine. I ran a poll on Twitter, and half of the people that follow me use creatine, which I thought was shocking.
And Eric has a gazillion followers.
And, I got a lot of people from the crypto world.
I was going to say, Eric, you're pretty big in the crypto world. So.
Yeah, you have to crypto adjust that number.
Yeah,
so maybe
exactly.
it's like 30%. But either way, a lot of creatine users out there.
Do one on seed oils next, Eric, and see,
Oh my gosh.
see what your followers are doing with seed oils.
I think you could do a show, Crypto and Creatine.
Yeah, yeah.
The Venn diagram, you know, there's a lot of overlap
That
there.
podcast, that would be a great podcast.
All right, and if Brian Nichols listening, we'll see if creatine makes its way into a spiked latte or something like that.
Delicious.